All right, welcome everybody. Claire Wasserman here, founder and author of Ladies Get Paid. We are an educational platform, global community, and a book that is all about helping women earn more and live better. And part of that mission is asking coaches to come on and to share their resources, their wisdom for how they also help women earn more and live better. And it's a little bit meta in it that we would love y'all to pay these coaches too. You'll get a lady paid. So it does double duty in both, sharing the wisdom, but also sharing these great services that you can seek out if you are looking for more support in your journey. For more in your life and career. I'm so excited today to welcome Brittany Canaski, although I realized I didn't confirm with you if I'm pronouncing your last name correctly, which
That
I
is right.
all right. And so I'll give just a very brief bio of Brittany, but she knows herself best. So I'll then let her go more into depth about what she does. And then we will focus our conversation on the three core goal-getting personas that she's developed. That's all about helping you understand and really leverage your innate strengths so you can get closer to the goal and whatever goal you have. But Brittany is a life and leadership coach, speaker, and she's also the founder of a company called Hello Velocity. I love that word, where she helps ambitious individuals and corporate teams accelerate their personal and professional goals. After spending nearly a decade climbing the corporate ladder, she discovered the power of coaching in her own life. So she knew this was the legacy she wanted to share with others. So I know we're focusing more on the core personas of achieving your goals based on your strengths, but I actually would love to maybe start with your journey and maybe that aha moment that you had that the corporate ladder was not for you and why you are just so moved to do this for a living now.
Yeah. Thank you for the great introduction and for having me today. I'm so excited to be on the other side of this community since I've been a member for a while. But yeah, I love sharing my journey because it's almost funny that it's like the stereotypical millennial that I had my quarter life crisis several years ago. And I was probably
Quarter
27.
life
Yes.
love it.
Yes, I'm like so stereotypical millennial here. And it was, I was about 27 at the time. And like I said, I was working my way up the corporate ladder. I felt like I was checking all these boxes. I was actually doing the career I went to school for, which not everyone can even say that, and getting promoted and doing great, getting paid well, all these things that, again, check, sounds great. But I just woke up one day and I know it had been building up, but again, for the story, you wake up one day and just realize, wait, I don't want my boss's job. I don't want my boss's job. And I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. And then you have the, oh shit moment of, uh-oh, what now? And what's next? So that's when I first discovered coaching, and I worked with a life coach, and she helped me get really clear on what it is that I really wanted instead of continuing to perform for other people or just check these boxes that sound good in our lives and in our careers. And it really helped me to really advance my career, got a different job, and started taking on all these passion projects and started traveling more and doing all these things that really lit me up. And I just knew it changed my life, honestly. That working with that first coach really changed my whole trajectory. But then I also knew the more I shared my experience with other people, the more I heard other people saying, wow, that sounds similar to, what I've been going through or what I went through before. So I just knew pretty quickly that if I could help one person the way that she had helped me, that would be more fulfilling than anything I could ever do in corporate America. So I took a year-long coach training program. I started coaching, and it just, again, snowballed in that I started my business right before COVID. And then about 9 months later, I was ready to just quit my job. And it was October 2020. And I knew that COVID honestly propelled that as well, because I knew people needed this work more than ever. And we were having these conversations, questioning our lives and our careers. And I just wanted to help more people.
I love it. And it's funny. I feel like it's been pretty recent, but at the same time, it's also been about 3 years in, as you said, you might have had that aha moment, but it was many years, many moments leading up to it.
Yeah.
So for everybody, who's new to this, every day I ask a new coach to join me and I say, what are you most excited to talk about? What is resonating? What do you feel will resonate with our community? It's really open-ended. And so for you chose understanding and leveraging strengths. But I want you to go into more detail. Why did you choose this? And talk to us about what does it mean?
Yeah. So specifically, I want to talk about these goal-getting personas that I've created that are really about our strengths, but then also finding what piece is missing for each of us, because it can be very unique to each of us and where we're at in our goal-getting journey, I like to call it. And yeah, I think it's really important because I know this community is full of ambitious people who are looking for that next step, whether it's their career, their paycheck, or their business. And I'm all about the ambitious people and goal setting. So this is like right up everyone's alley, I feel like. And these goal getting personas I came up over the last few years, again, like since I started my business over 3 years ago, I've worked with dozens of clients and talked with dozens and dozens of people about goals and what they're working on, what's getting in their way. And I've finally had that aha moment in my business too, to like see this clarity of these three personas. And the more I share it with people, the more they have their own aha moments of, wow, it's so simple and easy to understand and really easy to kind of locate where they're at in their process. So what it all comes back down to is that we are trying to create momentum for our goals. You know, especially ambitious people, we have these big goals, but we're not there yet. So we're like, how do we get there faster? How do we keep that momentum going and not lose steam? And I have found that the three key elements to this momentum are confidence, clarity, and structure. And these personas, these three personas are all based on one of those. So it helps you to kind of translate this random word that we've all heard before, each of these three words we've heard before, into what it looks like as an individual or as a person going after a goal. And to also help people understand it, I'll introduce it as more like a visual metaphor, because I found, I don't know, for me, I'm definitely a visual learner too. So it can be helpful to kind of like paint a picture for you too. So starting with the confidence, it is when we are, you know, the head in the clouds. And again, visually thinking about head in the clouds, you can't see below the clouds to see like the street or the houses or buildings or anything. But we are so excited about something. So we're literally like head in the clouds, excited to have all the ideas, but we can't really see what we need to be doing next. And then that clarity is that next level where we go below the clouds so we can see all the buildings, we see all the streets, but it can be a lot to take in at the same time where you have all this, the vision is coming to life, but you're like, oh my gosh, this is a lot. And then structure, that next level is where you're actually on the street level, you're walking around, you're taking action on this goal, but you can't see too far ahead. So this is like those three elements, but how we bring them to life, that next step, we have the confidence then translates into the dreamer. So our dreamers are the people who are always coming up with new ideas. They have all this belief and excitement. Yeah, you're immediately like
me every day. It's such a blessing and a curse.
every
But
day. Yeah, I found, yeah, a lot of business owners really resonate with the dreamer of like head in the clouds, so much excitement, belief in what you're doing and your ideas, and you love to share it with other people. But sometimes you get stuck in the daydreaming and you don't know how to bring it down past the clouds of how to actually bring this into reality and real life. So then that next level of clarity is the visionary. So that's again, when you're below the clouds, you can see more things, you have more specific goals, you translate those ideas into goals, and you're more strategic thinking, you're long-term planning, but oftentimes you get stuck when you don't even know where to start. Again, you have that visual of long-term plan, you get analysis paralysis, there's so many options, so many next steps, so many things to do, and it can be overwhelming for sure. And then the third persona is the planner. So this is the one that's all about structure. So you're on the street level, you're taking action, you're in the day-to-day, but sometimes you get that focus of only seeing the day-to-day and you can't quite see that long-term vision. So it can be hard to prioritize all of your tasks and your next steps, or you potentially take on too much, leading to burnout. So these are three personas I've seen in all the various people I've worked with over the last few years. There are actually 6, but the other 3 are kind of combinations of the first 3. So I like to just start with these to not overwhelm people. But usually everyone can relate to at least one of these.
Okay, great. And then what do we do with this information? I mean, I know that it's, much longer and deeper and, intensive coaching, but what would you say if somebody is listening and going, yep, resonate. Now what? How do I'm assuming the goal is to kind of merge the 3, or is it, tell me what's next.
Yeah. What's next? I mean, the first step is always awareness when it comes to coaching, is just understanding your habits, your patterns, whether they're helping you or getting in your way. So that's why I like to explain these as both. They can be really helpful. We need the visionary, we need the dreamers, we need the structured planners, but then we need to kind of balance each other out. So we need to first know what those strengths are for ourselves, what comes most naturally to you, but also know they may change depending on the type of project. They may change depending on where you're at in the project. If you're first getting started or you're close to finishing it, we may kind of go through ebbs and flows. So again, first is awareness, but then the second is, we want to balance these out so that we can potentially have all three. The dream is really having the confidence, clarity, and structure all at the same time. So it's having this as a tool to help you pinpoint what's missing. So again, if you're the dreamer, you got the head in the clouds, you have all these ideas. So then maybe you're missing a little bit more of that structure. So what kind of structure feels good for you? What will help you stay accountable? Or is there other people to help you and keep you on track or talk through things with you of what are the day-to-day activities? So kind of learning how to balance it out in a way that feels best for you too.
Okay, great. And what would be, if you were to imagine coaching somebody, what's the next step? Like they've identified where they're at, what they're missing. How do they start integrating these new ways of thinking and doing that might not feel quite natural to them, but would really add a lot to their ability to get closer to their goals?
Yeah, so actually I have this whole online course that for each of these sections are specific tools to use that are really easy. A lot of it is just reflection questions to understand how they show up for you, and then specific ideas and recommendations, again, kind of tailored to each of these. So there's about 3 or 4 tools for each of these. So again, we don't have the luxury of time to go through all of them right now, but that's what I would recommend.
What, if you don't mind giving, just because we do have some time here and I'd love to give people some tangible tools who are like, all right, this sounds great. Yeah. And let me know next step. What do you have off the top of your head that you could give as an example for somebody who, let's just use me, head in the clouds? I have the ability to do all three, but I'll be honest with you, I get the most enjoyment out of coming up with ideas. That's when I feel a lot of like adrenaline and pride, and excitement about myself and what I'm able to do in the world. And then I'm getting my shit done, but I don't feel great about it. Like it's not the thing that's like most aligned with my greatest strength. The other kind of work is not more tedious, right? But I have to do it. So I don't know if that's maybe an aside, because I've learned what my weaknesses are. I just don't want to do it. So maybe that's a different kind of issue. But yeah, for somebody who maybe is in the place where they're like, I'm just feeling overwhelmed. I'm looking at all the pieces of the things I have to do. How do I start to put them together? Do you have advice for that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely for the people that are the overwhelmed, or like you said too, the dreamer with all the ideas, to help you bring it to more the structure area. That's actually one of my favorite areas, or my natural tendency is to be very structured or organized.
Good.
So a few of those some of my favorite tips. Honestly, one of them, especially for a dreamer that might be helpful, would be doing like accountability buddy sessions where it's like, okay, we schedule an hour time together, we go on mute if we're on Zoom, and
Right.
we just work on something very specific. And like, all right, this is my structured time, I scheduled it. And it helps you go past that point of just putting it on your calendar, because you have someone else that's there, and they're going to hold you accountable, and you told them what you're going to work on, and you're actually going to get it done, or there you're going to actually show up and get it done. Another one I like is Pomodoro technique of, you've probably heard it too, where you schedule, or you have either a timer, there's different apps for it too, but essentially you just set a timer for 25 minutes. You're like, okay, I could be overwhelmed with all these different things I need to do, but let's pick one and set a timer for 25 minutes and just see how much you can get done. And then you will then set a timer for 5 minutes, take a break, go for a walk away, whatever it is you need to do. But a lot of times you can find that you'll get more done than you anticipated. So a lot of it is just like kind of ripping off the Band-Aid and just starting somewhere, and not letting the overwhelm or the scariness of seeing all the different things and all the different ideas at once hold you back from moving forward.
Yeah. And now what about the person who is really structured? but gets in the weeds. I'm assuming we're not encouraging them to like become a different person, right? Like you want them to really like leverage what they're great at. And so what's the role of the weakness, right? Like you're just getting a little bit better at it, or like coming up with a way around it, or how might we integrate for them the, head in the clouds, the excitement, the big ideas. If they're not naturally like that, do we want to encourage them to integrate pieces of that into their plan to get closer to their goals?
Yeah, I mean, of course, a lot of it is kind of depending on the person and depending on the role and what they're working on. So it could be trying to weave some of it in to see what feels good for them. Again, because I hate to recommend like, oh, do this thing that you hate forever and ever. Like that doesn't feel good. And like you said too, when you're forcing things, it's like, yeah, I'm getting it done, but I don't feel good. So I love the idea of just working smarter, not harder. So if it is outsourcing to someone who's great at those other pieces, then yes, please. But I know not everyone has the luxury of being able to do that. So for someone who's more in the structure, in the weeds, in the day-to-day, something that's helped a lot of my clients is to just schedule maybe an hour a week or even 30 minutes a week to have more of that strategic time to just stop and look more long-term at their projects and look at their goals instead of, again, always being on a meeting, always doing something like in the weeds. And whether it's honestly, a lot of times my coaching sessions with clients is that strategic time for them to just pause, reflect what's working, what's not working, things like that, instead of always just go.
Oh, that's great. Let's back up to somebody who maybe doesn't yet have the self-awareness piece. Short of taking a quiz, like maybe even bring it back to your own life and you realizing not only was coaching more of a lane you wanted to be in, but there's all different kinds of coaches, as we've seen, right? I'm having all different kinds of coaches come on. So how did you figure out what you wanted to do, but also what were you called to do? What was most innate in you? And your own understanding of what your greatest strengths and weaknesses are.
Yeah, I think a lot of that really comes through just trial and error. So, having an idea when I first got started, I was going to be like the millennial coach, because again, my story of, my quarter life crisis, and I wanted to help all the other millennials going through that. And now looking back at these like personas and these 3 elements, I see my structure mentality came through really strong at the beginning of my business too, where I was creating all these like systems behind the scenes, would write all this great content or blog posts, but it was so hard to actually like hit submit and to put it out in the world, because I love the behind the scenes planning and structure and things like that. And then I didn't have that confidence because it was a brand new thing that I was trying in the business too. So I think looking back now, I can kind of see the different stages. And then, yeah, like I said too, it is that trial and error of this is what started to work. And then, okay, like this piece is working, this piece isn't working. So let me lean over this way to what is working. And then, oh, this feels better. I didn't really like this. I tried it. It didn't feel good to me. I didn't like it, or it didn't work. And you just kind of keep tweaking until something really takes off for you. And again, it feels good for you. And yeah, that's kind of how it's continued, I think, throughout my business too, is like, I just keep tweaking it and hearing feedback from people too, and my clients, and like what's working. And, oh, like I'm seeing these trends over time too. Let me keep diving deeper into that as well.
Yeah. So it's really an experimental view, which I think just takes off so much pressure for those of us who feel the need to perform perfectly. If that's looking at life like it's a test, let's look at life like it's an experiment where there's not a right or wrong answer. There's just data that you're collecting. And it does require that consistent dance of micro to macro, right? Like you're in the weeds, doing the work, taking the action. And then there's the stepping back and the like more bird's eye view perspective. I'm seeing really good comments here. Like Tanya said, great advice, Brittany. I need to do more strategic planning, right? Which is that stepping back bird's eye view kind of look. Would you, for those who are in the need to like do the step back and sort of evaluate whether it's their life path, it's their business, it's their project, what might be some questions you could ask yourself to see, is this working or not? Does this feel good or not? Yeah. I know it's so specific depending on, who the person is and what it is that they're trying to figure out, but I bet you have some good tips around it.
Yeah. And I know you've just said it and I've said it a few times already, is literally asking yourself what's working and what's not working is a great place to start, or what feels good and what doesn't feel good. And sometimes we don't take the time to even think of something as simple as that. And we just power through and we got to keep going. We got to keep going. Or, we don't take the time to kind of split out, oh, like I had a bad day today. Well, what specific thing about the day was bad? Was it an email you got? Was it a meeting you had? And what about it? So getting more and more specific. And other questions, even, what do you want more of and what do you want less of? Because that can be, people in your life. It could be the meetings in your life or in your work. It could be, the whole spectrum too. So starting with the more or less, what feels good, what doesn't feel good, and what's working and not working, I think is a great place, and very simple and could help any area of life too.
What about Debbie's question here? Good to see you, Debbie. I know you came to our job seeker support group this morning. She said, I need to get a structure in place and focus on one thing at a time. I know we touched on that earlier in today's live, but do you have anything to add maybe for Debbie who just joined?
Yeah, I think that would be great for the Pomodoro method we mentioned earlier, where it's just one thing, literally prioritizing one thing at a time, but doing it at a set amount of time, and say, okay, I have 25 minutes to do this one thing. So honestly, if you're overwhelmed with too many things, just randomly pick one at that point. If you don't even know how to prioritize, just pick one and start there. And usually most people tend to snowball and do more and more and more. But when we're overwhelmed with that, when we have all the things we're trying to focus on and we can't even focus on one, honestly, just dartboard, pick one and just start and do 25 minutes and walk away and see how you feel.
Yeah. And also make it easier for yourself. Like if you have a million tabs open, shut that down. Because like, even though you're telling yourself, I'm only going to focus on one thing, like visually you see these other tabs. Or your phone, get it like out of your room. Like with maybe some kind of music with binaural beats, for like, just see if you can make the environment more conducive to focus. And also maybe pick something in the beginning that there is a finite beginning, middle, and end. So you can have that sense of accomplishment once you are done. Maybe it's not your number one priority, but just to give yourself that proof of, yes, I can do this, that does go a long way. But I do love the all right, 25 minutes, nothing else. And you're going to notice that you're probably feeling the pull to multitask, quote, multitask, though there's no thing as multitasking. It's you're just tasking a lot. It's just a lot of tasking and switching between tasks very quickly. So note your, whatever your magnetic pull is, it's because you've been conditioned in that way. And through repetition, you're going to condition yourself to start approaching work in a new way. So, that would be, 15 to 20 tabs open, right? Like, how is this good for our brains? This cannot be good. And of course, as I'm saying this, I mean, I literally have all of these tabs. So I know you may be like, okay, I got to keep them all open. Maybe just minimize, right? You could have them open so you don't forget it, but that doesn't mean you need to visually be seeing them as you do your work. Do you have any success stories that can come to mind, Brittany, of coaches, clients you've coached, or, folks you've worked with, or even your own life, of where, there was that stuck moment, or whether it was, I'm self-aware, but I don't know how to take the next step towards getting to my goal, or lack of self-awareness to the point of, I know who I am. I know I'm putting you on the spot there, but I always love to hear a good success story.
Yeah. I mean, a lot, of course, come to mind. One that's standing out, because I actually met her through Ladies Get Paid. So of course she was top of mind this morning before we were doing this. And she had these big goals, both getting a promotion, but also starting her own business on the side and moving across the country. Actually 3 big goals, but they were all such big, overwhelming goals that we honestly just took time to break it down into smaller steps and not feel overwhelmed, and kind of talk through things along the way of okay, where are we getting hung up, or, what's feeling good along the way, and things like that. And honestly, I don't know, maybe last month I got a picture from her. We worked together last year, and I just got a picture from her last month, a selfie from her new place after she had moved, but she had done all the things we talked about up to that point, and that was the last piece, was her big move. So she sent a selfie from her new house across the country and was like, thank you so much. This is because of our work together. And Yeah, one of my like favorite things, is getting those like cards or thank you notes or emails, texts, all of that from clients. Even a year later, she was still on that path of that plan that we had mapped out. And it's just amazing to see.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And also you can learn, so just to talk about moving, for example, and like the process that she went through of breaking that down and, et cetera, et cetera. There's so many life lessons that you can learn in one area that you can then apply to other areas too. Um, by the way, Tanya goes, I need multitasking anonymous. Yeah.
Yeah.
Business that I'll create. Last question, or the second to last question, is I ask all the coaches who come on to give us their kind of elements, basic elements for becoming your own biggest champion in work, money, and life. So far, I don't think there's been a repeat of an answer, and I've been doing this for 2 weeks. No pressure, but curious for you, for somebody who's just kind of struggling with self-advocacy, what would be, the things that you might recommend that they start to think about or work on?
Yeah, I mean, this even goes back to my origin story of, my personal development growth and journey, but it's getting really clear of what you really want, not what other people want for you, not what your expectations are or your hopes were, from 6 years ago, but who are you now? What is it that you want? What's most important to you? And what do you value most? And using that to get really excited about your goals and your ambitions and being that advocate for yourself too, and getting other people on board with it too. So it's not, again, other people telling you what you want to do or, society or anything like that. I know that plays into a lot of people's goals, whether or not they realize it, but getting really excited for you, what it is that you want, and getting clear on that can be huge.
Fabulous. Before we go into where people can find you, follow you, and pay you, actually, I would love to know, at what point did you feel confident that you could make the leap into running your own business? So even from like a personal finance, so I'm not even just talking about like emotionally feeling confident, but financially feeling confident to go from corporate to owning your own business. That's a big leap. At least for me, I was going from a small startup that I was working for to running my own startup. So just like the paycheck and environment wasn't going to be that drastic. For you, I imagine it was quite a leap. So how did you both emotionally and financially get ready to do that?
Yeah, I'd say financially, personally, what felt good for me, I had 6 months worth of expenses saved up. I know other people need more than that, and that is totally okay. Find that number that works for you. I know it's not a one size fits all, but having definitely some sort of, savings account is huge for that. Also, getting really clear on those expectations for yourself of, okay, I know when I quit, I was like, yeah, I'm going to replace this huge salary within like those 6 months. That did not happen. So maybe talking with other people and understanding other people's paths, again, knowing it's going to be different for everyone, but trying to level set your expectations, but also, you said, what was the other one? Emotionally prepare for it. Yeah, I think for me, it was one of those, my heart was so torn between my day job and my business that I was finally at that place where I knew I wasn't doing either service or justice. And I just felt that pull, honestly, day in and day out emotionally. And I knew if I didn't do it then, I would always regret it. So for me, that was like the final straw. It was like, okay, if I don't do it now, I might never do it. And that would be the biggest, like, awful. That'd be the worst thing for me.
Yeah, I think that's great. Not to get morbid, but like if you were hit by a bus tomorrow, do you stand by the choices you made today? Is great. And also, other thing is, nothing or very few things are permanent. Not even tattoos now. You can get those removed. So you can always go back to a full time. That's something to remember, and you're going to have a really great story to tell if you decide to do that. So, I mean, not to say that it's easy, and there are many considerations to take into account, but I think oftentimes we feel like our decisions carry a lot more weight than they actually do. And that's the point of earlier, be experimental about it. You're trying it, like, even though it doesn't feel quite definitive. Any last things that you want to share, things we didn't cover or stuff you want people to know about, our topic today, but also the work you do? And then after that, please tell us how we can find you, follow you, and pay you.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate the plug. And yeah, I mean, I think we covered a lot. I feel like I would just like brain dumped everything. So it might be a lot for everyone to take in. So yeah, definitely. Again, the first step is always just awareness when it comes to any sort of personal development work. So getting clear on if you're more of a dreamer, visionary planner can be really, really helpful in your day-to-day work, but also your big ambitious goals. And yeah, you can check out my website, hellovelocity.co, or follow me on Instagram at hellovelocityco. And then, of course, LinkedIn, Brittany Canaski. You can see my spelling over here. And yeah, would love to get connected with more women in the community.
Fantastic. Thank you, Brittany. Thank you to everybody who joined, all the great questions and comments. You can find me on Instagram at Claire Gets Paid, and of course, ladiesgetpaid.com. It's free and open to all. Thanks so much, Brittany. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye.